Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of day it is where you are. We are coming to you today with a special episode of Hey Sister. Hey Sister, how you doing?
Hey, sister, doing good, doing something different here today. Little noontime for me, a little lunch hour, lunch break situation. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yes, we're doing a midday remix over here. A midday mashup, as we should say. We did not do our regularly scheduled show on Sunday because you had a prior obligation. And this was when we can pull it together. And so we pulled it together because there was so much that happened that we needed to talk about that we were like, we can't save it all to next Sunday because we don't know what foolishness y'all gonna pop off the rest of this Holy Week. So I just want to say that it is Holy Thursday. Tomorrow is Good Friday. Being a little girl from South Louisiana, we know Good Friday is good eating and revelry and festiveness. So shout out to all our family and friends as they prepare for this the wrapping up of this Holy Week.
Yes, amen and hallelujah. And like you said, there's no shortage of foolishness any week. So we're going to be talking all things holy here in just a second.
Holy, holy, holy. I need to sing it like Marvin Gaye. I wish I could, because child, that's the holy that I'm trying to call on right now. Child, listen. So when do you want to start, sister?
I mean, well, it's Holy Week. Let's go ahead and get the foolishness up out the way.
Because he's proud to be an American, where at least he knows he's free.
Listen.
You know they had us sing that song. How many times you sang that song when you was in high school at different events or at both of us did Louisiana Girls State and after 9/11 and did this one around the Iraq. I mean, all the things they had us singing this song too. And now this man, Mr. Lee Greenwood, wants this partner with his good buddy Donald John Trump to bring you the God Bless the USA Bible edition.
Yeah. So I can tell you that I first became aware of this song, God Bless the USA, as far as I remember, it was at the time of the Gulf War. And
Mm-hmm.
it was at the no
Early
longer
90s.
the now defunct West Thibodeau Junior High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
And I was at the Thibodeau High School.
you know,
So
okay.
let's just start off with this fact. Let's just
Yeah.
start off with this fact. Let's just start off with the fact that they have the audacity to create. It's the King James version. He had to let us know the King James version. But,
Which you probably just learned last week.
well, because it's one of his favorite books, because he loves all the books, is what he said. Uh,
Yeah, he probably just learned that it was King James, and since he wants to be a king, he was probably like, "Big ups, King James."
but you add in the Constitution and our founding documents. So I don't know which founding documents you put in, because you said King James version, but our Constitution has been amended many times over the years. So I don't know if all the amendments. I don't know which version of the founding documents you put in.
It says
But
it includes the Declaration of Independence,
hmm
which I thought that had to do with um, freedom from religious persecution. So that's interesting.
but that's not what it was. But okay, go
Well,
ahead, keep going.
they were declaring their independence from Britain, and that was
Yes, yes.
their ability to practice or be whatever they wanted to
To
be,
govern themselves. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and even from a religious standpoint. But okay, U.S. Constitution. Apparently, the lyrics to the song, Lee Greenwood's song, um, Let's see what else. I thought it had the pledge in there, the pledge of allegiance in there, and I thought it had a few other. Child, I have to see all the things. Those were some of the things that I see. Um, the
But
bottom
the
line.
fact that it's antithetical to some of those founding documents to have the audacity to put them within a Bible, because part of the construct was we want to be able to practice. Well, first we want to be able to govern ourselves, right? Because we're under this monarchy, and we want to separate ourselves from that monarchy and have our independence, and we want to be able to practice whichever religion we choose and not be under the religion of the Church of England, right? Like these variety of things. uh, it's just like head
I'm
scratching.
still trying. So I'm gonna get here. I'm trying to get all the things that are included. First of all, okay, let's just keep it a buck. First and foremost, the United States of
No,
America,
it's 60
according,
bucks. So it's not a buck. 60 bucks.
okay, let's keep it $60. I meant keep it a buck as in 100% here, but keep it $60. So first and foremost, right? The United States was officially, I guess, founded in, or these documents, 1776. That's our year of independence. That's what we shout out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Bible goes back way further than that. Um, thousands and thousands of years. Like in terms of time, if you will, the United States is relatively young in age
Mm-hmm.
compared to many of the civilizations in on the African continent, as well as in what is present day Middle East. So I'm just really not understanding the reference to these documents that are just specific to the United States of America. Like it just doesn't make sense. That part doesn't make sense. A. B, as you said, antithetical. At the end of the day, not only is there problems with some of the language that has been in our constitution and founding documents. I mean, even the people who were writing those documents were saying all men are created equal while enslaving people.
Mm-hmm.
So they were problematic in that regard. And so this is even further problematic. Because let's face it, for a lot of us, even the US flag, while we all are American citizens, when we see US flags flying from people's houses or flying on the back of people's cars these days, or trucks, big trucks usually, there's
Mm-hmm.
a certain connotation that goes with that. And that
Mm-hmm.
connotation seems to suggest that certain people deserve more claim to this country than other people.
Uh-huh.
And that's what makes it problematic. Okay, the last part is, of course, well, maybe not the last part, second to last part. Second to last part is that we are supposed to have separation of church and state. Now, other people have done Bibles, right? Other Bibles have come out. There's women versions of the Bible, there's men study Bibles, there's a plethora of versions of the Bible. So that's, I mean, that's not particularly new, but when you're talking about adding these documents that are supposedly the foundation of our government, and yes, we say in God we trust, but we also say that there's a separation of church and state. And why do we have a separation of church and state? Because every single person who is in this inhabiting this country, who's paying taxes, they may not be originally from this country. They may not have the same religious beliefs. All of us don't, even in Christianity, we all don't have the same beliefs. So again, your beliefs don't get to supersede my beliefs. So how are we putting this in a Bible? And last but not least, how low do you got to go? That's where the to reading some of the articles where now all of these groups of Christians are outraged. Well, who are the Christians y'all talking to now? Because I've been outraged by this man's behavior. So who are the Christians that you're now talking to that are outraged because this is blasphemous? This is blasphemous. So grabbing them by the pee is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But this is blasphemous. So raping someone is okay, but this is blasphemous. So sleeping with a porn star while your wife is pregnant is okay, but this is blasphemous. That's and the fact that you just happen to owe this New York a whole bunch of money.
And I don't even know, has he paid on E.G. and Carol yet?
Probably not.
I mean, because he got lots of bonds out there that he got to pay.
Right, a plethora that he has to pay. So it's disturbing to me that it's disturbing me and my home girl. Y'all will get that reference later. That this is what we're as Christians outraged about. But y'all forgot that he was saying 2 Corinthians not that long ago?
And that he was holding it upside down.
And
That he had the audacity to walk in front of that church, hold that Bible upside down, then unleash on
people
nonviolent protesters, on people who were standing and protesting and marching against injustice, and then have the militarized police turned on them. Yes, we've been outraged. So I just dropped that in the comment. We've been outraged. And so I don't know who is, the outrage of the day. It is not surprising. It is not surprising that the demographic is allowing themselves once again to be pimped and pillaged for their earned money to help pay this person's legal fees, because I'm sure all those lawyers still have not been fully compensated for their time, energy, and or efforts, in whether it's the case in New York, the case in Georgia, or any number of cases and the number of appeals, because we haven't even gotten to some of the other cases that's in the District of Columbia, right? So, but one of the points that you picked up on that it really does just make me wonder is, and I can't remember the gentleman who he was on. He was on MSNBC and he was on The View, and he recently wrote a book um, about how Christians allowed themselves to be co-opted by this right, and how nothing that this person represents is Christ-like, and how he talked about the pursuit of a life like Christ. And that's the part that really gets me and gets under my skin, as someone who believes in the teachings and the practicing and trying to live that type of life and model that type of life. To see this person in such a cavalier and glib fashion, well, let's make America pray again. I'm like, who are you talking about? Because some of us been praying.
Oh, we've had to.
Yeah. And to your point about those who are in this country who may not be from here, but let's talk about the original people in this country. Mm-hmm. And what was done to them in the name of Christianity. And then have the audacity to be so dismissive of their traditions and practices and customs. I just think all of it is disgusting, but it's not surprising from this individual. I'm kind of sorry that we are in a time and space where the snake oil, the snake oil salesman can sell their snake oil so wide and freely, and so many people are seduced by the snake oil. Because if the golden calf at the a few years ago at the convention here in Florida wasn't enough, if like you said, grabbing them by the pussy, let's say the words, because see that's the other thing. We don't want to say the words out loud. No, he said he could he said he could do whatever he wants.
He said he
Because
could
when
go in the
you
middle of what?
Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
Somebody and
But we know that the Miss USA and the Teen USA, because he used to own those pageants, those young women said how he would come into the dressing rooms and how creepy it was. Right? This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. And the fact that he's even a candidate still
still.
says everything that needs to be said. And so we've been outraged. I think we'll stay outraged, but we will continue to keep up a good fight and keep up the good work and continue to try to model and live in a way that is truly reflective of a Christian walk and not this idiotic simpleton who has the audacity. Yeah, it's one of the best books because I read all the best books and it's one of my best books.
But certainly stop
Book
short.
name a book in the Bible.
But certainly should stop short of suggesting that he is fault. He has any faults. He is flawed. Did not acknowledge ever praying for his sins to be forgiven. But nonetheless, sister, I think I have to refresh really quick because I'm behind, and so I'll be right back. Coming right back.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess I don't know what time delay. I don't know what's happening over there. Well, while she's getting ready, y'all, we are live with this special episode of Hey Sister. We are coming to you, like I said, with a midweek, midday mashup that we wanted to come and just talk about all the things that's happening because we didn't have our regularly scheduled show on Sunday, and so we are back at it. You synchronized now, girl?
No, still not. Don't know what's going on.
Okay. Oh well. Well, look, we've already talked about that. If you're watching, just drop us a note, say hey. If you're watching live. If not, make sure that you like, follow, share, and subscribe. You go back and tell folks that you watched us, that we came, we did a special episode, we did a thing today. Make sure that you join the conversation in the comments because we go back and read your comments and we comment on the comments, okay? And then subscribe to our website. Go to our website, heysister.com, HEYYY, heysister.com, and get you some merch and support what we're doing here as we continue to try to grow and glow up on this platform. All right, so now you got this photo here, sister, with the heron and the sunshades. What's that about? What can I?
Yeah, I'm trying to still get myself together. No worries, keep going. We're gonna keep pushing. So let's talk. Okay, I think I'm here, but I'm still
okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, next topic.
I don't know what they want free, like the movie we across the others we see. I just had to do it. I don't know why. Why I had to do it?
You have to. I mean,
this has nothing to do with money. This has nothing to do with problems. It definitely has to do with problems.
It's problems. It's definitely problems.
Definitely problems. But I don't think it has to do nothing with. And I don't even know if it has to do with problems. As I think it is. What we have seen is that power, like the saying goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Mhm.
This is seeing where people in positions of power, positions of authority, who then do gain some wealth or influence, and how they exercise that wealth and influence. Now, all of these charges have been completely denied by Sean Combs. But there's been these stories about him, many of the stories about him have been bubbling around for many, many, many years. Kind of like with R. Kelly, many, many, many years, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that these things just came out of nowhere, but it was an accumulation, and then there was a tipping point. So I don't know if in this case, the tipping point was when Cassie filed her lawsuit and it was quickly settled. It was quickly settled. And then I guess maybe others got brave and decided to speak out, because now there's accusation after accusation after accusation after accusation that ultimately led to, while no charges have been filed just yet, but um, they call them raids, but I guess they are investigation missions of some of his homes and properties and what have you. So I don't know, sister. What say you?
Well, I went on ahead, took my camera off because it was.
Because if I get more money, I don't think I'm gonna have these type of problems. I'm just saying.
No, I won't. Listen. So first and foremost, yes, stories have abounded for quite some time. This is, I think when one Miss Cassandra Ventura came out and really put out her, was brave enough to tell her truth and to walk into it. Maybe there are some that would say, hey, always trying to tear brother down, and he paid the money right pretty expeditiously. And some may see that as an admission of guilt. Others may see it as, nope, this is what happens in that lifestyle. Basically, like if you're famous, if you have so much money, lawsuits are a common practice. So many times people pay out and call it a day. I think the challenge now is, like you said, it's multiple lawsuits. Now, obviously, per the orange guy that we were just talking about, it's very hard when you see one person who has sort of this celebrity status and you see raids on their home, and you have somebody else who has multiple allegations too. And yes, different jurisdictions or what have you, but you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the raid. Remember the raid at Mar-a-Lago? Because they said that was, they said that was, they went too far. They raided that place too.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to call them raids, because it's not really a raid. They are doing an investigation, and the investigation leads me to your home at a time when I suspect you're going to be there. So normally it's in the early morning hours. I mean, we know what happens in these raids, and we've seen young Black people like Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend actually get shot up in raids like that. We know what happened in history when people raid. So we know a raid, what it is and what it looks like. And it's not at a convenient time. And I don't know if they've been asking him for documents, or we don't know if they've been asking him to comply like they did with the Orange Man, because the Orange Man had multiple, hey, we want this. We need this. We want this. We don't know what type of communication have been going on with Mr. Combs. So we don't know.
We know Mr. Combs left him churn, though. We know that. We know he said, listen.
Justin and what's the other boy name?
Other little boy, Lil Diddy. I got to run. Now, it may be like, sometimes with parents, when they be like, it's time to go. If you ain't ready when I'm say be outside, But baby, the children was, and I know they not kids, but they still kids because we don't watch these kids grow up. You know,
Cause it's the little LB show son and the other and Justin, right? It's them two, right?
no, it's Justin and the one that looks just like him. Let me see this boy name. Uh, I thought it was King
I
Kong.
thought it was
Christian is his real name, but they call him King.
Christian. Okay,
Yeah.
Christian. Okay, I thought it was
Yeah.
little LB show.
No, I think Albie Shorter took his child back. I think
Well, take him, baby. He's a grown man, has a whole acting career doing his own thing.
again. I think he said, "Come on back home, son." That's always been interesting to me in the first place. But that's a whole nother story because I don't know all them people details in their lives. What I will
Nope.
say is, you know, DJ Envy said something the other day. You know, I don't really mess with DJ Envy them like that as much anymore, but they were interviewing Jasmine Guy, and Jasmine Guy makes for a great interviewee. And so he was
Jasmine Guy, if you're listening, we want you, sister. We
absolutely.
would love to have you.
And I'm not going to ask you stupid questions about the different world because I know all the answers already because I didn't listen to all.
Because we seen it, we watched it, we lived it with you.
Exactly. But, you know, he was saying that how back in the day, you didn't see celebrities, right? Like you didn't know where they lived. You didn't know where they ate. So when you did happen upon them, it was that level of excitement and it was just very different. Where now it is very much like people want you to know where they are, when they're going to be there. You know, they put a whole lot of stuff out in the streets. And so I think it's interesting that because I was like, you know, I clearly don't know where he lives in Los Angeles or in Miami, but TMZ did, and
TMZ be knowing.
absolutely.
And I don't understand how Harvey, who just was a little old lawyer, who used to be the outside courtroom reporter on People's Court. Remember we ran into Harvey? Remember we ran into Harvey and taping People's Court in the New York City streets?
We did. Maybe that trip to New York was everything. But yeah, it's like now we see so much of these people's lives. Like I said, TMZ saw Puffy pacing back and forth at the private executive airport. It's like what we know so much about these people's lives. So it's interesting to me that now, of course, we have folks who are trying to backpedal. They want to be sure to say how they left the party. They wasn't at the parties the whole night. Yeah, you were. Now we have so many people who like, oh yeah, it was wild in the 90s. It was going down in the 90s. You're asking the victims why they didn't speak up. I'm asking you why you didn't speak up. Since it was so wild and so ridiculous, you knew all these things was happening. You were born witness to these things. And you said nothing, but now you're laying it at the feet of the people who said that they were sexually assaulted or forced to have sex with sex workers, or there were underage girls and there was sex trafficking. You're laying it at their feet now to come out. And what you doing? Well, I ain't stay all the time. Well, I wasn't there from the whole time. Or no, I avoided going to Puffy. Okay, so now Puffy was take that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all was up in there.
That's the thing that's very interesting about a lot of this. So again, it goes back to that comment, that inside edition or whatever Access Hollywood comment. They will let you do anything, right? You could grab them by the right. It's kind of that same mindset and mentality. And so, having come up in the early 90s, now we talked a little bit about the Freaknik documentary, did we? Oh, we never got a chance to talk about that, right? Did we talk about Freaknik? No, we didn't.
That's what we were supposed to be talking about also today, but we got
yeah, but it's that same thing in the as you think about, so we talked about Luke showing up in the Freaknik documentary, and it was like, yeah, you was part of the problem, right? Um, so that whole energy, if you talk to anybody that worked in the music industry, the, or the movie industry, it didn't get wild just in the 90s.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was wild long before then. But a lot of this stuff that has is come out, especially since Harvey Weinstein, it seems like that era, there's a whole lot more of things that are to be exposed. But to your point, where were the people who had moral compasses and convictions? Where did they stand? Or did they just stand silently? That's the part that's real interesting.
It's real interesting. I mean, but look, let's go back all the way to making of the band when the man, like the young lady in Danity Kane, had already put out some things, and her career was basically shuttered as a result. I don't know if you can
So,
still see me. I don't know what's girl. The internet, girl. Let me turn off all the other stuff because it is clowning today.
mhm.
Um, but so even since he done made them children walk across that bridge to Juniors to get that cheesecake, it should have been problematic. But people was like, no, it's Puff. That's just what Puff does, or that's how the business goes, or they gotta learn, they gotta, and it gets to that level. And I'll just say that, well, at the end of the day, we'll let the system play out as it will.
Of
You
course.
mentioned about Torre being on Joy and Reed's show and mentioning a family member that he too knew was a victim, or at least having had an internship pulled because he didn't, I guess, perform in a way that he was asked to perform. Like, there's
Mhm.
so much, and there's so many allegations. And I was telling you earlier as well that I think that there's even folks who are now saying, like, well, I too have stories, right? And I don't know if their stories are more general and they're speaking out on victims' right, or if it's specific to Diddy. But what I do know
Mhm.
is, just like with R. Kelly, you don't do all of these things alone. You can't have this sort of influence and behavior, and you just can't. These things don't happen in a vacuum. There are
R.
people who
Kelly,
know.
Harvey Weinstein,
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein. You keep going down the line, and you can name not to this level, right? Because
Right.
this is based on the allegations. And again, they're allegations at this point. There has not been any conviction. There has not been any trial. I mean, we know of the one case with
And investigations.
an investigation, but we know with the one case with Cassie, based on those documents, and that was like, how many pages was that? It was like, we posted that when it happened, so you got to
Yeah.
go back and watch previous episodes. But it was like, okay, wait a minute, this case, this filing in the court comes with a warning at the top. Wait a minute, hold up. So from that point, and that was settled within 24 hours, we expected us to be here and for it to go further. And we know that when all the things were coming out about Harvey Weinstein, it still took a number of years for it all to come to a conclusion. I suspect this is going to take a number of years to come to conclusion. We know what folks have said about their money, and I know that there are probably many more
Mm-hmm.
who need to get their house in order or who might need to do some repenting, because who knows what's next.
Well, and then the other unfortunate piece about all of this is, listen, if he did it and he got away with it for all these years, then he needs to be punished for it. And if he didn't do it, then it can't be where we continue to make we can't keep making people pay for things that they've been found, at least in the system. Not that the system gets it right all the time. We know they don't. But we can't keep making people pay for the rest of their lives. And that's the part that's unfortunate here, because based on these allegations, the volume of the paperwork and the number of allegations, we just don't get, and by we, I mean people of color, specifically Black people, we just don't get a lot of opportunities to bounce back. And so,
listen, I don't know, but we know that there's a lot of probably NDAs and there's a lot of manipulation. We know there are a lot of people who are allow there are a lot of people who are victims, and because of youthful exuberance and ignorance, we know a lot of people allow themselves to become victims because at the hope and the wish and the prayer for how fame seduces people or celebrity seduces people. It's so many layers. It is complex, it's deep, and I just pray for everybody involved.
well, pray for all the people involved, in sister.
I will pray for all the people involved, and I am not gonna pray on the God bless the USA Bible. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Well, speaking of, Cassie and Diddy settling in 24 hours, there was a grand opening and grand closing within 24 hours as well.
Baby, when I tell you, you get a job, and one of the first things you do is go on with your new job. They say, we're going to put you out here on one of our franchise programs to have a conversation. And you go out there, and when the man, because he's no longer runs that, he doesn't anchor that show anymore, Meet the Press. But when Chuck Todd was like, I don't know, he was like, Kristen, they put you in a bad position. Basically, I don't know why they hired her. She shouldn't even be up there here.
Well,
basically, that's what he said.
Let's talk about who her is first and foremost.
Okay, so Rania McDaniel, who is the former chair of the Republican National Committee, and she yes, Romney McDaniel, but she dropped her Romney.
Now, is she related to Mitt?
Let me go back and see the relation, because I think she was Rania Romney. Let me see. Yeah. I think she was Rania Romney McDaniel. Yeah, she is related. I think she's a niece. Yeah. And she dropped that name because that no longer, that's how she ascended, right? In her ascendancy in that working in that party, in that structure. And then she dropped that name when the former president, because he didn't like that
association.
Yes. He didn't like that association. So they hired her. She got a good $300,000 contract. And when I tell you, if you go to the job and you ain't even been in the studio but for a few hours, and
she had just badged in, baby.
I don't even know if she had a badge. They probably brought her in she probably was getting her badge made. But when every show, starting with the earliest morning, at Morning Joe, all the way down to the late at night with Rachel Maddow, When every single one of them was like, I don't know why we hired her, and I think NBC needs to be consider this decision. I was like, well, damn. Did y'all not talk to y'all CEO? Did y'all? I mean, we know they do what they want and they make hiring decisions as they want, and that hiring decisions and the things that they do is separate from talent. But those that talent who believes that they are true journalists, honey, they had something to say. And when I say from every show, because she went on that Sunday show with Kristen Welker. Like I said, she went on Meet the Press, which was Sunday. So everybody else was off on Sunday. But Monday, they were like, oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm.
But I think going back to the previous story,
Grand opening, grand closing.
yeah, I mean, but going back to the previous story that we discussed, that is how you stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is how you don't wait until the people have been hurt and harmed to say, well, I had a problem with them hiring her from the beginning. No, you say, as a collective, because they can't fire all of us, you say, stop playing in our faces, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
We have gone to school. We have been doing these things for years. We have experience. We have honed our skills. And you bringing in who now what? Because
you're bringing in who now what? Who not only stood by denying the results of the last election, but who also was on the phone trying to say with Michigan officials. She was also on the phone saying, okay, we don't need to count these votes. Like she was part of the whole scheme.
Right.
Now she lucky she ain't got no charges because the ones in Georgia, she was on that Michigan call. She wasn't on that Georgia call because Fonnie would have had her to.
Yeah. So I mean, I think but it speaks volumes, and we're gonna talk about this next topic. But it speaks volumes how when you're Black and you are sent to a certain position, you're a DI hire, or which is the new term that before we used to be affirmative action hires, now we DEI hires. It's funny how that's the case, but when your middle name, your maiden name,
when your maiden name is Romney,
and you wrote that coattail, or if your maiden name is Bush, or if your maiden name is Trump, and you got, because these kids have absolutely no reason being in no.
Or your maiden name is McCain, and you had a whole job that you ain't even deserve, or you get internships that you don't deserve.
Right.
Because see, it starts really early, right? It's because of that influence or because of that name recognition. People give you opportunities, and people are okay with that. It's like the legacy clause at the universities. They okay with that.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. But if it's one of us, I mean, even a few weeks ago, you talk about on The View, like well, not Sasha, but the older one, Obama. Malia Obama. You know, she's getting into her writing and filmmaking. And so she went by her middle name. And folks were up in arms, like, why would she go by her middle name, her first and middle name? We all know she's an Obama, but she's not trying to ride that. She's trying to show you that I literally went to Harvard, and I moved to Los Angeles on my own, and I am here in this space trying to make my way. And yes, I'm sure being an Obama isn't a hardship for her, but it's like, so again, either we're DEI candidates or we're criticized for not riding our parents' coattails. But when other folks ride their parents' coattails all the time, or like you said, have these legacy clauses, and that's why they get into these institutions.
And let's be clear, Mitt Romney is not her father, so he's not. But it's family, relative, yes.
Nepotism. you know, it's interesting how that's not frowned upon by these same people who have so much to say about DEI hires. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's a
Yeah.
woman. She has probably had very no experience to be on the air.
So let me say that. Well, she's been on the air a lot, obviously, because of the role when she became the RNC chair, and now the new
Yeah, you and
co-chair.
I on the air all the time. We come
Yeah,
on.
the new co-chair of the RNC is Lara Trump, who is the daughter-in-law of Donald John Trump and Eric Trump's wife.
Right.
So how that happened. But I do want to say this. If anybody out there wants to give me a 2-year contract for $300,000 a year and bring me in and then fire me the next day and pay me out the whole 600,000, I'm up for it, right? I mean, to me, it ain't hard work, right? That was easy work. You talk about light work, baby. That was some light work, and she came up. Okay, I'm gonna bank like if somebody told you, sister, look, you could bank, half a mil in 24 hours.
I'm doing it.
You, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, as long as I don't have to commit a crime, I'm doing it.
I mean,
If
and
it's
basically,
if it's a matter of me filling out all them HR papers only for them to have to shred them the next day, cool.
I mean, it wasn't hard work for the sister. So I say
It wasn't hard
kudos.
work, but I'm just bringing up the point that you had to have this entire, like you said, from morning to night. You had to have every single journalist who had a show
Mhm.
speak out against, because I'm sure it was insulting to them to
It
feel like,
absolutely was. When you saw what they said, you could tell. I mean, like I said, when Chuck Todd was like, Kristen, I'm sorry that NBC even put you in this position because you were talking to someone who did not agree, who first of all did not agree with the same set of facts about things, right? Like who denied the election, who did this and who did this, and now we're supposed to trust her to come on our airwaves. Like they shouldn't have even put you in that position. And I think he's absolutely right. But so let's slide into that whole conversation then, because that CEO is not a black man.
no, he's not.
He not. The CEO of Boeing who just resigned, he ain't no black man. But y'all want to have the audacity and the caucasity to try to use this tragedy that happened in Baltimore to say it's about DEI. Because
Yeah,
so DEI, as you said, DEI is the new substitute for black.
right.
Because they forgot about women. They forgot about people who are neurodivergent. They forgot about people who are differently abled in many different ways, fashion and form. They forgot about people who have different orientations and all the protected classes under civil rights. They forgot about all of that, and they're using it as a substitute for black. If we're going to be honest about what they're saying, but we saw this tragedy happen in Baltimore, where a container ship um, ran into one of the posts and the bridge collapsed. We know that there were people working on that bridge. We know that at least 6 lives were lost. We know that there's going to be disruptions in families and lives. And instead of saying that or honoring those victims or saying anything about that tragedy, there was a person who's running for office, a former congressman, and trying to get back into a Congress in Florida, who said this is because of DEI. And he said it, and I'm going to tell you, because remember when the Alaska Air, and that's why I brought up Boeing, because remember when the Alaskan Airlines, when the boat came out of the
Yeah.
door and that came off, you know who else who also on their platform said that, oh, that's because of DEI. That was Elon Musk,
Mhm.
because the pilot was a woman who landed the plane safely, and there was no tragedy in that situation, no lives lost.
Right. And a door flying off a plane has nothing to do with the pilot. That has to do with the engineering,
And
the machine.
the engineering and the people who built it and put it
Yeah,
together.
yeah, that's
Right.
what I mean. The engineering, the building of the actual plane,
And
which
a
is largely, I'm sure, predominantly
and
white
a
men.
shipping container that goes into a bridge has nothing to do with the Baltimore mayor, who's a young black man.
Nor does it have to do with the people who, as they said, who, yes, many of the people who were working on the bridge are immigrants. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeking the quote unquote American dream. They're here doing the work that many of us don't want to do. They were filling potholes
Oh,
overnight so that the next morning commuters could get to and fro. They were on the bridge. They tragically lost their lives. That had nothing to do with
do it,
DEI.
DI.
The
Absolutely.
fact that a barge lost power, you know, again, so you all are doing these mental gymnastics. But Joy Reed said it best. Like, let me point out the obvious. This young man who was duly elected, as he said, duly elected incumbent is what DEI means to
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
This young man was elected with 70% of the votes in a city that's more than 60% black. So wouldn't the DEI candidate in this situation be a white man? That's who
Mm.
would be the quote unquote diverse candidate, not a black man who was born and raised in Baltimore. But the fact of the matter is, the it's it should be beneath all of us. Because when I saw that bridge come down, my heart was broken. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize it was workers on the platform. My immediate thought was that there were cars and people.
Mm-hmm.
All I could think about is being trapped in a vehicle, because we just talked about what happened to Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law plummeting in her Tesla into
Mm-hmm.
this pond and ultimately drowning. So I had this visual of people being trapped. But now this is even the thought of two people who were rescued. Praise God for that. But
Mm-hmm.
we've already recovered two bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the bodies may never be recovered.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people who, I mean, I cannot even imagine what goes through your mind
Mm-hmm.
in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's tragic. It's devastating.
Tragic. Mm-hmm.
And for folks to stoop so low to try to make this a conversation, and the discuss with the person who's running in Florida putting that up. But apparently there is this account on Twitter that has 25 million users or so. It's a blue check, but everybody can get a blue check now. I don't remember who they're attributing the account to, but Elon Musk liked the comment.
Mm-hmm.
So between their 25 million and then however many he has, you're continuing to perpetuate this narrative. Let's just call it what it is. You're suggesting that black folks are inferior, intellectually inferior, and that anytime something bad happens, if we're in the positions of power, it's because we somehow got a job that we didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Stop with the bullshit, okay? Because at the end of the day, if we were so intellectually inferior, you wouldn't have brought us over here to cultivate this land. If we were so
Mm-hmm.
intellectually inferior, you wouldn't have had us building monuments and highways and plowing fields. If we were so intellectually inferior, and dirty and all the other things you've called us. Why would you want us to nurse your babies and to cook your food?
Mm-hmm.
So stop. As the young man so eloquently indicated, you don't even have the courage to say the word nigga because that's what you really want to say. You
Mm-hmm.
don't even have the courage to say that. So now we're calling it DEI, and the fact that what's her name, Kate Ivy or whatever in Alabama, you didn't sign laws. This damn Ron DeSantis,
Kentucky.
Kentucky, Florida, all of these people, y'all keep signing these laws to eradicate DEI, and guess who's gonna get the most harm? You're gonna be surprised because it ain't gonna be us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've already shown y'all tried this with affirmative action. You did this. You tried to destroy affirmative action in an attempt to hurt Black people, and who did it end up hurting more
Mm-hmm.
than anybody? It wasn't us. It wasn't us, and it ain't gonna be us. It's never gonna be us because we're resilient. We've been at this for hundreds of years. It
Actually, millennia, because
millennia, but in this country, hundreds of years we've been at this.
mm-hmm.
And every time you try to, again, like somebody said, reason we don't got universal health care in this country because you all didn't want your great, okay, not maybe not you, but the apples ain't falling too far from the tree.
Mm-mm.
So your people didn't want our people to have access to health care. When you no longer had a use for us post enslavement, you wanted all of us to die off. And you did everything that you knew how to do. And we keep coming back. And we keep living on. And we keep making excellence out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the audacity to take something as tragic as these people losing their lives, people who were here trying to build the American dream for themselves and their families, who, according to what you all have stated, is supposed to be the promise of this country, they were trying to live that promise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this was a tragic accident. And the first thing you thought to do, not send thoughts and prayers, because at least you usually send thoughts and prayers. You didn't even think to send thoughts and prayers. The first thing you thought to do was to try to undermine the brother who's the mayor, the duly elected incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
GTF.
And the governor, who is also a Black man as well.
And a native son of Baltimore.
Baltimore. Mm-hmm.
GTFOH.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I know when I saw it, the first thing I did was I reached out to a friend of ours, a friend of this show, Crystal Sharp, who's from Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing I did, to say, hey, your family's good. What's going on? You're in my prayers. That's the first thing I did. And so if you have any shred of common decency, humanity, I wish we would stop and step out. Because if your first thing is to go to social media, you need to stop versus reaching out to someone one on one in the wake of any tragedy. So that's going to be the lesson of the day and the key takeaway. In the wake of any tragedy, in the wake of any struggle or trial, because so we talked about from the top of this show to the bottom of this show about what in the world and all the things that's going on. So if the first thing is when you want to raise money and you decide you want to put your face and name and likeness in a Bible, if that's your first reaction, I'm gonna say that's the wrong one. If if you have charges and allegations against you, and the first thing you do is well, I'm gonna just go on this vacation and leave y'all here now, that's probably the wrong thing to do. And in the wake of the tragedy, the first thing you want to do is accuse somebody or talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's probably the wrong thing to do. So reach out to people. have a human response. Show some empathy, show some love, show some care, some concern. And then if you do believe, say a little, truly say a prayer. Don't
Yeah.
send thoughts and prayers. Get on your knees and pray. But there's so many other things that you can do besides, as that's why we call it a bridge too far. By going too far, and they keep going too far, and it just needs to stop. So that's all I got to say in closing. What you got to say?
Yeah, what I have to say in closing, and this is kind of where you and I started in the pre-show. This idea of you were telling me about the View and the episode, and this idea that we can decouple or dethrupple, if you will, race and politics and socioeconomics in this country. We cannot. They're all intertwined, and so when we are speaking out, when we're using this platform to speak up and speak out about things, yes, a lot of times it does culminate in a discussion about race, because race matters. Unfortunately, although it's the 1% or the 0.1%, whatever it is, that
Point one.
differentiates us, and it's a man-made concept. It in this country where you and I both currently reside and we're citizens of, it has become so intertwined in the fabric of everything we do. Because like you just said, when that happened, I didn't care who was on the bridge. My heart was broken to see this vessel run into that piling and to see that bridge collapse in the way it did.
Yeah.
My heart broke, and it in a very same sense of, and we didn't talk about this, the tragedy that happened in Russia, where these people went out to a concert, and you had this terrorist group come into the concert hall and start just shooting people. And I think about all the, like, I am stuck in this place of wanting to go out and wanting to enjoy my life, but also being afraid that for any number of idiotic reasons, somebody can try to snuff me out. And so even with that, yes, I was like, who was on the phone recording? That's what I was thinking as well. But I was like,
if that's your first inclination, is to record and not seek aid or render aid or call 911, if your first thing is to record and not call 911 or whatever emergency alert system you have.
Yeah, maybe they thought that they were doing a service by making sure people saw what happened. I don't know. But the point is I'm not Russian and I'm not a native of Baltimore. But when you see tragedies like this happen, again, the human response should be one of empathy and care and concern.
Yeah.
And when that's not it, when, again, I'm not Palestinian and I'm not Israeli, but I see children starving. And if that's not your first inclination to have empathy for another human being, you need to check yourself, period, point blank.
Well, with that, we're going to sign off. We went a little over, and we probably could talk some more because I know you and I could talk for a long
Girl, we got to
time.
talk about this Freaknik document at some point, but we also have to still talk about origin as well.
Boy, you should know that I was not on the documentary. I didn't go to that year. And I am so glad. How about that?
With that,
y'all, we got to have some levity because you got to laugh to keep from crying, right? So, with that being said, thank y'all for joining us for What in the World. I see a few people out there joined us live. So, go back, watch it from the beginning. What in the world And we look forward. We are planning to bring on some folks who work in the world of DEI, so we can have a more informed and full conversation about these attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then what might our posture be and how we should move forward and what actions we should take legitimately. We also want to just have more conversations about how do we engage politically and in the political process. How do we engage and grow and lift as we climb? But also, how do we make our first thought and our first inclination and our first reaction one that is reflective of our humanity and our shared humanity versus things that divide and separate us. So with that, we signing off. Hey, see you
Peace.
Sunday.